Over the following months, Maya built a new life from nothing. She found work at a small beauty supply shop owned by a Ghanaian woman who had married a Korean man 25 years ago and understood what it meant to be foreign and alone. She made friends with other immigrants and expats who gathered at a tiny West African restaurant on Saturday nights to share food and stories and the comfort of familiar accents. She prepared for motherhood by reading books and taking classes and decorating Kai's corner of their one-room apartment with bright colors and soft blankets, and she tried very hard not to think about Taemin, though he haunted her dreams and waking thoughts with equal persistence. Taemin, meanwhile, was falling apart. The morning after the disastrous family dinner, he had woken to find Maya's resignation email and no way to contact her. He searched everywhere. Her apartment was empty, her phone was disconnected, and none of her co-workers knew where she had gone. He hired private investigators who came up empty-handed. He drove through the streets of Seoul at night, irrationally hoping to glimpse her face in a crowd. He confronted his mother, who admitted to their conversation, but claimed Maya had left of her own accord after being offered money to disappear. Taemin didn't believe her, but he also couldn't prove otherwise. Work became unbearable. Every project reminded him of Maya's contributions. Every meeting felt empty without her insights, and the new hire who replaced her was competent but utterly lacking in the spark that had made Maya special. His mother pressured him to move on, to date the daughters of her friends, to forget about the African girl who had clearly been using him. But Taemin couldn't forget. He had loved her, truly loved her, and he had failed to protect her from his family's cruelty. 14 months after Maya disappeared, Taemin's assistant brought him a routine report on company credit card transactions. Most of it was mundane, client dinners and office supplies and travel expenses. But one entry caught his eye. It was a small charge from a beauty supply shop in Busan made on a card that had been issued to Maya, but never returned when she left. The charge was recent, just 4 days old. Taemin's heart began to race. He canceled his afternoon meetings, got in his car, and drove to Busan with no clear plan beyond finding that shop and hoping, desperately hoping, that it would lead him to Maya. The shop was wedged between a seafood restaurant and a laundromat in a working-class neighborhood far from the gleaming towers of Seoul. Taemin pushed open the door, causing a small bell to chime, and found himself face to face with a Ghanaian woman who looked him up and down with frank assessment. "We're about too close," she said in accented Korean. "I'm looking for someone," Taemin replied. "Her name is Maya. She used to work at Summit Enterprises. I think she might shop here." The woman's expression hardened. "And what do you want with Maya?" There was something protective in her tone, something that told Taemin this woman knew exactly who he was. "I need to see her," he said simply. "I need to know she's okay, please." The shop owner studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "She lives upstairs," she said finally. "Apartment to see. But if you hurt her again, I will personally make sure you regret it." Taemin took the stairs two at a time, his hands shaking as he knocked on the door marked to see. There was a long pause, then footsteps, then the door opened a crack. Maya's face appeared in the gap, older and wearier than he remembered, but still beautiful, still her. Her eyes widened with shock, then narrowed with anger. "How did you find me?" she demanded. "It doesn't matter," Taemin said. "Maya, please, let me explain. Let me apologize for my mother, for not protecting you, for everything." That's when he heard it. A baby's cry from somewhere inside the apartment. Maya's face went pale, and she tried to close the door. But Taemin was faster. He pushed it open gently, but firmly, and stepped inside. The apartment was tiny, but clean and bright, filled with mismatched furniture and colorful decorations. And there, in a crib by the window, was a baby boy with golden brown skin and a head full of dark curls. Taemin's brain did the math in an instant. He looked at Maya, then at the baby, then back at Maya. "He's mine," he said, and it wasn't a question. Maya's shoulders slumped in defeat. "Yes," she whispered, "his name is Kai, and before you ask, I didn't leave to trap you or hurt you. I left because your mother made it very clear that we would never be welcome, and I refused to raise my son in an environment where he would be treated like a mistake." What followed was weeks of careful negotiation and tentative trust building. Taemin came to Busan every evening after work, bringing food and diapers and toys, sitting on Maya's worn couch, and learning how to hold his son without fear of breaking him. He apologized endlessly for his mother's behavior, for his own blindness, for all the ways he had failed Maya when she needed him most. He promised things would be different, that he would stand up to his family, that he would protect them both. Maya wanted to believe him, but trust, once shattered, is not easily repaired. She let him into her apartment, but kept him at arm's length emotionally, unwilling to risk her heart or her son's stability, on promises that might evaporate under pressure. "I don't need you to save me," she told him one night as Kai slept between them. "I've been doing just fine on my own. What I need is to know that you won't abandon us the moment things get difficult, because they will get difficult. Your family will never accept me, and Korean society isn't exactly welcoming to women like me or children like Kai." Taemin proved his commitment in ways both large and small. He set up a trust fund for Kai, ensured Maya had proper health insurance and legal residency, and spent every free moment he had with his new family. But the real test came 6 months later, when his mother discovered the truth. Mrs. Kong had hired her own investigators, and they had done what Taemin's had failed to do. They found Maya. The confrontation happened at Summit Enterprises during a major awards ceremony celebrating the company's 25th anniversary. Maya had reluctantly agreed to attend as Taemin's guest, wearing a borrowed dress and feeling desperately out of place among the champagne and designer gowns. Mrs. Kong cornered her in the powder room with 2 of her society friends as backup. "You have some nerve showing your face here," Mrs. Kong hissed. "Did you really think you could trap my son with a baby? Did you think I would just accept this humiliation?" Maya, who had grown a spine of steel over the past months, straightened to her full height and looked Mrs. Kong directly in the eye. "I didn't trap anyone," she said calmly, "and I don't need your acceptance. Your son loves me, and he loves his child, and nothing you say or do will change that. You can either be part of Kai's life and treat us with respect, or you can stay away. But I will not allow you to abuse me anymore." The real turning point came an hour later when Taemin took the stage to give a speech about innovation and the company's future. Instead of the corporate speech everyone expected, he spoke from the heart. "I've learned something important this year," he said, his voice carrying through the ballroom. "I've learned that the things we're taught to value, status and appearances and tradition, mean nothing compared to the things that actually matter. Love, family, and the courage to stand up for what's right even when it's difficult. I've also learned that I'm a father." A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Mrs. Kong stood frozen near the bar, her face white with rage. But Taemin continued undeterred. "The mother of my child is an extraordinary woman who came to this country with nothing and built a life. Through sheer determination and brilliance, she faced discrimination and hardship and betrayal, including from people who should have protected her. And despite all of that, she remained kind and strong and hopeful. I'm proud to call her my partner, and I'm proud to call our son mine. Anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to leave my life." The silence that followed was deafening. Then slowly, applause began, first from the younger employees who had worked with Maya and respected her, then spreading through the crowd, until the ballroom thundered with it. Mrs. Kong left without a word, her friends trailing behind her like a retreating army. The aftermath was messy. Some business partners distanced themselves from Taemin, uncomfortable with his choice of partner. Korean media outlets ran stories dissecting his relationship, some supportive, others cruelly mocking. His father called to say he was disappointed but would try to understand. His brother, surprisingly, reached out to Maya and apologized for his behavior at that first dinner. "I was scared of my mother," he admitted over coffee in Busan. "I still am sometimes. But what you and my brother have, it's brave, and I want to learn how to be brave too." Through it all, Maya held steady. She returned to work at Summit, in a new role that utilized her talents without putting her under Taemin's direct supervision. She moved into a larger apartment with Kai, close enough to Seoul for work, but far enough to maintain some independence. And she started working on a dream that had been growing for years. Her own beauty line that blended East African botanical traditions with Korean skincare science. The brand, which she named Bridge Beauty, launched a year later to unexpected acclaim. The products were genuinely good, but the story behind them was what captured public attention. Here was a woman who had overcome every obstacle imaginable to create something beautiful and meaningful, something that celebrated both her heritage and her adopted home. Sales exceeded projections within the first month. Magazine articles featured Mayo as an example of Korea's changing face, a symbol of the country's evolution into a truly global society. Other women of color, both Korean and foreign, reached out to thank her for creating products that actually worked for their skin and for proving that they had a place in Korean beauty culture. The success was gratifying, but what mattered most to Maya was the sense of purpose it gave her. She was no longer defined by her relationship with Taemin or her status as a foreigner. She was a businesswoman, a creator, someone who contributed value to the world. 2 years after that disastrous dinner at his mother's house, Taemin took Maya and Kai to Jeju Island for a weekend getaway. They spent the days exploring volcanic beaches and tangerine groves, Kai toddling between them with the fearless enthusiasm of a 2-year-old. On their last evening, as the sun set over the ocean in brilliant shades of orange and gold, Taemin got down on one knee in the sand. "I know I don't deserve you," he said, pulling a ring from his pocket. "I know I failed you in the beginning, and I know my family made your life hell. But I also know that I love you more than I thought it was possible to love another person. You've made me better, braver, more honest. You've given me a son who is the best thing I've ever been part of creating. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you. Maya, will you marry me?" Kai, not understanding what was happening but sensing its importance, clapped his chubby hands together and shouted yes before his mother could respond. Maya laughed through her tears and said the only word that made sense: yes. The wedding, held 6 months later in a garden venue that could accommodate both their vision and their budget, was a vibrant fusion of Kenyan and Korean traditions. Maya wore 2 dresses, first a traditional Kenyan kitten ensemble in bold red and gold patterns, then a hanbok in complementary colors for the Korean ceremony. Taemin wore both a Kenyan dashiki and a hanbok, looking slightly uncomfortable but deeply happy in both. The guest list was eclectic: Maya's friends from the immigrant community, Taemin's colleagues, the few family members who had chosen to support them, and a surprising number of Bridge Beauty customers who felt personally invested in Maya's happiness. Mrs. Kong did not attend, though she sent a gift, an antique bracelet that had belonged to Taemin's grandmother, with a card that simply read "Congratulations." It wasn't an apology, but Maya chose to see it as a white flag, a small acknowledgement that perhaps she had been wrong. The ceremony itself was beautiful and chaotic, with Kai escaping from the designated babysitter 3 times to toddle down the aisle, much to everyone's delight. As Mayo and Taemin danced their first dance as husband and wife, moving slowly under strings of lights while their son played with the hem of Maya's dress, she thought about how far she had come from that rainy night outside the airport. She thought about the woman who had been scammed and bullied and made to feel worthless, and she marveled at how that woman had refused to break. Every hardship, every moment of discrimination, every tear shed in despair had led to this. A family built on genuine love, a business that made her proud, a life that was authentically hers. Korea would never be easy for someone who looked like her. Maya knew that. There would always be stares and questions and people who viewed her presence as a problem to be solved, rather than a life to be celebrated. But she had learned that she didn't need everyone's acceptance to be happy. She needed only her own strength, the love of people who truly saw her, and the courage to keep building the life she deserved. One day at a time, Taemin pulled her closer, whispering words of love against her hair, and Kai tugged on both their hands, demanding to be lifted between them. And in that moment, surrounded by music and laughter and the warm glow of paper lanterns, Maya felt what she had been chasing since the day she left Nairobi. She felt home, not the home of a place, but the home of belonging, of being loved exactly as she was, of knowing that she had earned her place in the world through her own merit and courage. It was a feeling worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth celebrating. The night stretched on, and the stars came out above them. To every woman who has ever felt invisible or unwanted, your story matters, your love is valid, and you deserve to be seen. Never let anyone convince you otherwise.